Welcome to Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast, where we hear real stories from real people and we tackle all sorts of fun topics in the areas of business, marketing, entrepreneurship, mindset, the arts, and, well, life itself. It's amazing what you will pick up. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, my name is Richard, founder and CEO of Elite Property Consulting. I've created my business to change your mindset on how you purchase a property and challenge a conventional way of how real estate is acquired. I believe everyone should have a fair go at purchasing a property at a fair price, and I have created a unique system of achieving that, saving you time, hassle and money. For a limited time, I'm sharing my secret formula with you on how to shortcut your property purchase journey. Click on the link below to book in a complimentary session with me. I look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back, everyone. Another fantastic episode of Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast. I've got the fantastic Richard Liu here for episode 2019. How you doing, Richard?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good to see you. Looking forward to hearing from you today. I'm going to be chatting about how to purchase in the Sydney property market, the things real estate agents don't want you to know. Very good. I love this. So for everyone who doesn't know who Richard is a Sydney-based buyer's agent helping both investors and home buyers secure their dream homes in Sydney. He has over 10 years of sales and negotiation experience backed by construction background. He created his own buyer's agency in Sydney to change your mindset on how to purchase a property and challenge the conventional way of how real estate is bought. He believes everyone should have a fair go at purchasing a property, and his goal is to help you realize that dream a lot sooner. They refer to him as Mr. Worldwide, and Richard will chase that house down for you and get the deal done anywhere in Sydney, regardless of the time, even if that's 2 a.m. So Richard, I hope you don't do too many at 2 a.m.
Yes, that was a very stressful deal, but at the end of the day, I saved the client of 50 grand. So it's well worth it rather than wrap up the deal early. Absolutely. My job's to save people money. So why not? They were happy. Woke up with the good news. I said, just leave it with me. I'll get it done.
Love it. So,
no
mate,
stress. Yeah.
Let's hear a little bit more about you and your background and how you fell into buyer's agency and why you love it so much.
Okay, so I started off as an accountant for probably about 5 years.
Yep.
Graduated from uni, did 5 years accounting. Didn't quite like it, just wasn't me. So I'm more of a people's person.
Yeah.
So I've gone to sales. I was in the sales industry for probably about 10 years in the automotive finance industry. That gave me a good understanding of sales skills, how to negotiate, how to talk to clients, customers of various sorts, and also the loan aspect of how things work, which kind of helps when you deal in a buyer's agent space as well. Accounting space is good because as an investor that comes, you need to understand all the numbers and have a better understanding of figures, especially when it comes to even just normal biddings and so on in those environments. You need to get your numbers correct, right? So you can't get those numbers right. So I'm one of those type of guy that counts the numbers and, scrutinize every single cent. And it helps in my job as well. So you want to save every single cent possible, right? That's what accountant does. And buyer's agency is no different, right? One deal with the ATO and I deal with the agent trying to save you money. So that's the whole point of me. And then I was working 2 years in the construction field for Metrocono Homes, one of the biggest builders in Australia, selling homes. And through that process, you understand the fundamentals of constructions, how it works. And at the same time, you understand how clients go through when they're buying a new home off you or you're designing their new home, right? So being a buyer's agent space is no different to that. It's very similar. It's an emotional buy. In fact, and I'll say to people, it's one of the biggest purchases you make in your life, whether it's an investment or home to live in, so an occupier, right? So, having gone through that journey, understand how a client feels, and also, you get to learn all aspects of construction, what to look for in a property, the defects, the flaws, how to read the contracts, interpret the contract itself as well. So the important aspects of what to look for in a property and how to look for the flaws. So those are the things that, you know, experience comes in over time. And yeah, so, and
That's
then
really
I jumped
interesting,
into,
you know. That's really interesting, you know, because especially for first home buyers, I think
yeah,
it'd be really useful to have somebody on their side that has the experience of negotiating, of looking through contracts, of dealing with building inspections and all this kind of stuff. Because a first home buyer, you know, can get absolutely bewildered and overwhelmed by all these things they have to do and all
yeah.
these different checks that have to be done, controls. And if they miss one, it could cost them a hell of a lot of money. So I think, you know, using someone that's got a bit of experience can really help you in this respect.
100%. And to put in their shoe, I've gone through that journey myself.
Mm.
And that's part of the reason why I started a buyer's agent, because I bought many investments in my life and I never had help. I wish, you know, buyer's agency, it was a thing back then, but I didn't realize it wasn't big.
Yeah.
And I purchased my first property. I overpaid $500 because of emotion. The agents got me that good. So till this day, it still haunts me.
Yeah.
Would I do things differently today?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%, absolutely. So, you know, I still don't know why I overpay $500, but I had no idea how to purchase a property back then.
Yeah.
And you know that you never listen to your parents' advice, whatever it
That's
is, and
right.
you just go with whatever you wanted to buy at the time. So,
That's
and
right.
this is, you know, another reason why I started my buying agency. I want to help people to actually save money. And cities are becoming very, very expensive. So there's a certain way you purchase property to buy within the right market. Timings are very important as well.
Yeah.
But we'll go through all those things later on. Yeah.
Definitely. And there's so many things to consider, you know, whether you're buying a property for investment purposes or for home purposes, there are
100%.
different
Yeah.
things to consider. And it's almost a full-time job to really understand the
Yeah.
market, the
Mhm.
structure,
Yeah.
what's around the property, all the different factors that might affect the property price. There's so much that goes into it. Like it's a full-time job.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's very stressful. So it's
Yeah.
not easy as you think. So that's what I'm here for.
Yep.
And like what you said, if you purchase the wrong property, it could cost you a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah.
When I was into the construction industry, people come to me all the time. Oh yeah, we just bought this house. We want to knock down and rebuild it. And guess what? I delivered to them the bad news. Have you done your due diligence on the block? You know that, you know, there's sewage drainage affecting, it's going to affecting your construction costs.
Yep.
It's in a bushfire zone. And most importantly, sometimes I deliver to them the news they don't want to hear. Sorry, you can't build the size of home that you wish for because council won't allow you due to floor space ratio.
That's
So
right.
they weren't aware of those things. They just go, yeah, we bought it. We want to build whatever we want. And guess what?
Huh.
They're stuck with what they want, or they either sell it or they get a smaller home.
Yep.
That's a reality, right? So I'm here to guide you. Make sure you don't make those type of, you know, mistakes that could be costly in the long run. Even though if you live in it, it doesn't really matter. You've got to look at a bigger picture, what you might do further down the path. I need to advise you, right?
Yep.
You've got to take all those into consideration.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I believe that you focus only on Sydney.
That's right. Yeah.
That's your niche. So tell us a bit more about the Sydney market at the moment. Have you found anything change in the last month or so, or the last month or two?
The back buyers activities are coming back. So
Nice.
obviously during the December, everyone's wrapping up. So it was quite hot back then as well because everyone just wants to buy something before they go on holidays.
Yep.
January is always a bit quiet because everyone's on holidays, but the buyers activities are back now. The RBA just announced the rates on hold,
Wow.
and you can see that the inflations are coming down. So the consumer confidence are coming back. In
Nice.
fact, a lot of smart people have actually always start investing for investors or already bought because they anticipated the interest rate will drop. And I think in my prediction, I always be saying to people by mid-2024, which is this year, the interest rate will drop because our inflation has peaked.
Yep.
Of course, you know, there's third world, you know, other economic things that we can't control. If we start World War III and so on, then, you know, those factors we can't factor in, or we get another COVID, right? But under the normal circumstance, everything's back on track. The economies are slowing down. So the RBAs are looking at very cautiously whether they should hike the rates any more further. The main thing they target is get inflation to under 3%.
Yeah.
And we're getting there. You know, their NTIP say 4.5. We're sitting at 4.1 at the moment for December.
Okay.
So things are getting better quarter by quarter. It's not if, it's just a matter of when they drop the interest rate. And when the interest rate drops, then you're going to have more buy activities because everyone's going to come into the market.
Gotcha.
and the property price is going to rise even further. And there's few reasons for this. The biggest factor at the moment is mortgage stress or the borrowing capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So when the interest rate drops, those that are on good income, they can borrow more money.
Yep.
So it's not that they can't buy the property, it's because they're limited by the bank.
Yep.
So once they have more money, they're happy to spend that extra 100, 200 grand or whatever bank lends them because of dropping in interest rate. And guess what's going to happen to the property? It's going to go up even further.
Because there'll be more demand
And-
as well.
100%. And then the supply is limited. We are going through the supply crisis issue at the moment, thanks to COVID, and obviously high interest rate. A lot of developers are holding off build because the build versus the construction cost versus profitability just does not stack up at the moment. So they need 25, 30% margin to
Wow.
build their property. And these days just don't exist or very hard. So they're holding on to it like a build. I know the governments are targeting about 240,000 a year bill. That's they're trying to get 1.2. That was an election promise. And we're nowhere near that. Our annual construction bill, I think last year was only around 160,000.
Really.
And guess where our migration intake is? So our population has grown in 2023 by 650,000.
Wow. You're joking.
Yep. And our migrations are sitting around 500,000.
Oof.
And that's from COVID time, right? So we're catching up. It is slowing down.
Mhm.
But when you look at all these people with the population growth, where they're going to live?
That's
So
right.
there's nowhere for them to live. And, that's going to pushing up rents.
Yep.
And that's what's happening everywhere in Australia at the moment, where major capital cities, the rents are going up for that reason. And it's a dominoes effect. One thing happens and a lot of people go, hang on a second, especially in Sydney, why am I paying such high rent when I can afford to buy something? So there's more buyers coming onto the market, but the supplies are limited
Mhm.
because you're restricted by constructions, what people are building at the moment, what the developers are selling.
Yep.
So it all comes down to demand and supply. When there's no supply and demands are high, then the price is going to go higher and higher.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford a certain suburb, and what they do is they just buy somewhere else in the outer suburbs, or they compromise. They all want to buy something. Or some people even choose to do rent vesting, where they buy a bit further and they still not change the lifestyle where they are renting. So at least they bought something. So that's where the market is at the moment. Cities are very hot, and then, like I said, that's probably going to continue for who knows when, until the supply catches up, right? There are more supplies, but that's easily absorbed by demand at the moment. So we're yet to see what's happening, what the trend is, but the auctions are picking up. Markets are quite hot. And I think, last year, I think Sydney had a 10% increase in property prices. So we're back to the time of the rate rise. I think was May 2022 when the interest rate announced was rising. So, and the property price started dipping in about November around that time. Yep. So I think we're back to where it is now.
Wow. Crazy.
So it's onwards and upwards from here. That's what I say to people. Property price is not going to adjust or go down any further, especially when the interest rate drops again.
Yeah. So
if you want to get in the market now, it doesn't matter. It's not even in Sydney, anywhere in Australia. Now is a good time to get in the market before
demand hits.
Demand hits. And not only that, if as an investor, your rental yields are going to be a lot higher because the rental crisis is not going to be solved overnight. It's probably a 3-5 issue before it catches up again. And they're trying, unless the government slows down the migration, which I think they're trying to do at the moment. They're working on policies or whatever they're doing. But, whatever they do, it's going to take 3 to 5 years to fix, and they don't have a solution at the moment. Yeah. So as an investor, your rental yield is going to be a lot higher. No. And how you work on that in Sydney, there's certain strategies that you can do to maximize it. But I'll go through that later. Yeah.
Well, let's get into it. I mean, I'd love to hear all your tips and tricks for the people that want to invest in their own home as well as an investment property. Or I love the term you used, rent vesta. I love that. That's cool too. But what are the things that real estate agents don't want us to know, and what are the tricks?
Well, first thing, if you're looking at a negotiation of a property, what I'll say to people is every property is an emotional purchase, right? Even some investors treat it that way. I deal with a lot of owner occupiers in Sydney, and of course they're all emotional buyers. So, and this is where the real estate agent gets you. They work on the emotional factors and they work out the prices, right? And it works very well under the auction environment. So under the normal, what I'll say, the number one tip is when you look at inspecting any properties, remove your emotion.
Yeah.
Agents will always there to ask for your feedback. What do you think of this? Just pick on the negatives. Never say anything positive. If you know how to play poker, you know
Yeah.
how to do this very well.
Keep a poker face.
Put some sunnies on and
Yeah.
just walk out looking very sad, like act like you're not interested in the property. That's rule number one, right?
I love
And
it.
this is a mistake I made when I purchased my first property,
Yep.
and that's why I overpaid $500 because he saw the excitement and how much I love.
Yeah.
Agent knows this. They can pick your body language. I can see it miles away, right?
That's right.
So that's one thing. And unfortunately, sometimes you just can't help yourself. When you see something you love that much,
Yeah.
you know, it kind of just shows through, right?
Right.
So
And
you
particularly
just got
if
to
you've
control.
particularly if you've been looking for the last year and you haven't been able to find a place, all of a sudden you go there with your husband or your wife and
Yeah,
you see this dream house, you just want to
Yeah.
jump up and down, but no, you've got to be careful.
100%. And all of a sudden your pockets are becoming very deep. I can afford to pay another 100,000. Like,
That's
hang on a
right.
second, where did that number come from?
Yeah,
I
that's
never
right.
discussed that in our brief. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, so that's a number one rule, emotions. You need to control emotion, right? Number two is you need to know the area very well, wherever you're buying, and knowing the pocket you're buying and also the area and the prices. So you got to do a bit of digging on what the neighbors sold or what the suburbs actually sold for, what's the market activity and movement in the area, right? There's certain ways you can do that. You can go to RPR, Domain, or you can go, I have a lot of subscriptions where, you know, can reach out to me privately. I can go through all that with you, right? Where you can analyze what's being sold on the street, what's sold in the suburb, what's the market movement, comparisons. And these are the things, yes, agent will give you some details on, but they will only tell you what you want to hear, right? And they only tell you the high prices. They're not going to tell you next door sold for a much lower prices. So these are the things that you need to do yourself.
Yeah.
So do a bit of a digging, know your prices, right? And don't just listen to the agents because, of course, they're always going to be biased towards the sellers. They're not going to work with the, you know, the buyer. Their job is to get the highest price.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So those are the two main things when it comes to looking at a property. The other things when you're looking at a property, you need to have a look at the property itself, right? What I mean by that is have a look at what's actually wrong with the property, even if you like it. Pick out things that you don't like. Like what I said before, the sad face. Try to pick out things that, you know, like what it doesn't have or needs renovation or
Bathroom's a bit
you know,
old, or
it's-
there's only one car spot, or
yeah, it doesn't have an
only
ensuite
few
downstairs.
windows or whatever, no balcony, etc.
Yeah, whatever, or on a main road, or look, when you're buying even a brand new property, you're going to have issues, right? I've designed many new homes and still pick out things that go, I don't like this, right? So especially when it's an existing home you're buying, you're always going to find something, flaws in there, right? Nothing's 100% perfect.
That's right.
And I mean, you can tell those things to agents, but they always give you a counter, right? Or whatever it is. And then it's me laugh sometimes and they'll tell you that, oh yeah. To give an example, I saw a house for a client recently in a development zone that was in Kingsford.
Okay.
So down the door, they have the high rises built on the other side. And he's like, oh, this is a development side and you can build same high rises. And I look and I'm like, you know, so I tell you what you want to hear. At the end of the day, you got to do your own due diligence, and it's laughable sometimes.
And that's actually
Give bad
brings
credit
it-
to agent.
Yep.
But they will tell you what you want to hear. At the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do, right?
What
Which
about
goes
a
to my
building
next point.
inspection?
Okay, that's my next point, the due diligence part, right? So the due diligence part is an interesting part. So you got to have a very good solicitor to read your contract, right? Even though I read a section 10.7, I don't read the whole contract myself because that's the solicitor's job.
Yep.
Going through cooling offs and that type of things. I'm not a solicitor myself. But the main thing is you got to be aware of, in the contract itself,
you got to have a look at what's actually being affected on the block. Where's the sewage located? It's in a bushfire zone. Is in a flood effect zone. Is in a mine subsidence zone. Those are the things that you got to be aware in a contract. I heard of a case, I think it was Epping, was actually on the news about a year ago, where I think a couple bought a block. They didn't do any homework on it. They knocked it down before they even did anything, and ends up being in a half flood zone, and they can't build anything on it. Council won't allow them to build on it. Right. Or they might have engaged a builder, but there was something along those lines. So I'll be very cautious of those things. And, you know, these are the things you need to be aware of. And I mean, that's just part of it, right? There's other things that you need to have a look at as well. When it comes to buildings, building and pests, you need to have a good building pest inspector. I have some of the best in Sydney. But the main thing is you got to make sure that you inspect the property properly to pick out all the defects and work out what the cost is, because anything that they don't pick up, then it's going to cost you money later on.
And actually, on that point, just a quick one.
Yeah.
You know how a lot of the times you can get an independent building inspection that's over and above the contract itself, isn't it? It's a separate inspection. Is that right?
Yeah. So building pest inspectors are always separate.
Right.
That's right. Some agents will have their own reports done already by the building pest inspector, where you pay a small fee.
Okay.
Usually about $100, and if you're the successful purchase at the end, you pay an extra fee on top. Right. If that's done, you can just order one of those reports if you're comfortable with it, or you can go through one of your own building pest inspector. Gotcha. You spend a bit more money. Always advise that use your own, because you don't know who they use and how reliable they are. And if they miss certain things, it's going to cost you more money. Right, it's a few $100 for building pest inspection report.
Yep.
It's not that
much. It could cost you hundreds
Tens
of
of
thousands of dollars. So worth doing.
100%. Yeah. So that answers your question on the due diligence.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So really, emotion, understand the area, understand where the property is located, understand, you know, maybe the pricing, access to schools, access to, you know, all the amenities, and then of course the contracts and building inspections. And then you mentioned, now we get to pricing.
Yeah.
So what are some tips and tricks around negotiating price? And obviously that's your job as a buyer's agent. You're there on behalf of the buyer to negotiate with the real estate agent. But what are some of your tips around how to negotiate properly?
I'll get to options later, right? Okay. So just in a general environment, so you can ask me that later. Yep. So in a general environment, when it comes to negotiation, there's certain ways you can do about the pricing. So as I mentioned earlier, with pricing, the first thing you need to do is have an understanding of the market, especially in the area that you're buying, what the neighbors sell for, what the streets sell for, what the surrounding streets pricing sell for. You need to get those comparison data as a starting point, right? So if agent tells you it's a $2 million property, and then in fact it's only worth 1.5, then, you know, you put the offer on it, you're going to have issues, right? Not only that, the bank might not value at that, because banks look at the comparisons the same way probably I do, right? So if you end up overpaying, that's going to be extra cash dipped out of your pocket. So that's the first thing you look at, the pricings. And then the second things I look for is you need to understand, when you're purchasing a property, you need to understand why is a seller actually selling the property, right? So you need to understand what their motivation is. And this allows you to work on the pricing itself and negotiate with the agent. Now, what I mean by that is, look, if you get one of those fire sales and where bank just want to move it on, or a deceased estate where they just want to move it on, most of the time they will go to auction. If it doesn't go to auction, you can negotiate and secure it off market or beforehand. Then there's a chance that you might get a good price for two reasons. Mortgagee sales, bank just want their money. They want to move on. Right. Same with deceased estates. The kids are getting their money. They couldn't care what they're getting. It's mum and dad's money. They just want to split it, move on to do their own things, right? So extra $100,000 or $200,000 less, it's not going to break their bank. In fact, they're winning the money. That's how they think their head. Yeah. Right. Then you've got other cases where owners bought already, and they need to, they might have a bridging loan or whatever reason, they want to move on real quick. Those are the ones where you might get a quick bargain, or you might be able to negotiate a fairly quick with favorable quick settlement condition to get that done.
Right.
Then you've got other scenarios where owners want a delay settlement period, maybe 3 months or whatever it is, even longer sometimes. I mean, if you're looking at buying a development side or something, sometimes you negotiate a much longer term.
That's right.
A put and call options or whatever it is that you want to work 6 to 12 months. Just depends. But in most typical cases of mum and dad's just buying a property, you might want to consider those delayed settlement options for the owner, and which makes it more favorable for you on pricings. And this is where the pricing comes in, right? So I did one recently where I gave them 2 options. You can settle it now, or you can do a delay settlement, but hey, my price is going to come down.
Right.
So, and then it does take a bit of a work to do, but you can work out a strategy how you do things. And on pricings, if you really, really want a good pricing, you need to have an understanding of the property itself. Even though it's presented to you immaculate in the photos and all that, when you go there, it might look like a complete dump.
Yeah.
It's different to what's in a photo or in the video. So you've got to be very careful that when you're inspecting it, I'll say always look for the flaws. Nothing's perfect. Like, point to the negatives of the property. And when you go home, go through all of those, work out what's going to cost you to actually fix the repairs and everything. And then you present the offers to the agent based on those things that with those numbers in there already.
Love it.
And that's how you bring the prices down. Again,
Love it. And
with another one,
that's
I
actually a
think-
great negotiating tool. Like, if you go to the agent and say,
Yeah.
look, we like the place, but it's got this, this, and this, and this that we're not really happy about. So because of that, we're going to offer you this. And then they take that information back to the seller, and you start negotiating on some grounds, right? Nothing.
100%. And that's how I saved one of my clients 50 grand, because even though it's a fairly new built home, it's only probably, I'll say less than 5-6 years old, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't have an ensuite downstairs.
There you go.
Right? There's no shower to powder room.
Mhm.
So even though you have a bedroom downstairs, and then agent told me, yeah, it's only $2,000-3,000 fixed. I ran my plumber. Guess what's going to cost? 30 grand minimum, because they had to pull the entire bathroom at the powder room apart.
Wow.
And to fit it, re-waterproof it. So it's not as quick as just screw something on and that's it, and then it's done, right? So that to my advantage, I said, look, that's a cost. It's facing a T section, right? So even it's a perfect property, we all know that for Chinese and the feng shui, no one wants to buy a T section.
All
Right.
right. Okay.
It's
right.
bad luck,
Okay.
right? So I don't like T sections myself. Unless the price is good, then of course you consider it.
Right. Nice.
So it's like you're buying a house with a number 4 in front, right?
Yeah,
Which means it's bad luck. So like these are little things that you pick out and just say, look, and that's the reasons why it's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's the cost is. Therefore, I want a discount at this price.
Love it.
So you put those sort of pricings to the seller themselves. Agent, of course, pass on those information, and that's how you get a good price.
Perfect.
And
you
of
do
course, you got to.
You do a logical and reasonable negotiation based on information and facts, not just emotion.
Oh yeah, 100%. So I mean, some of the things you got to look at is you got to make an assessment on what the property is worth as well,
Yep.
right? So of course, my offers are going to be based on those assessments, and the price is going to be reflective of the property itself and the comparison suburbs and the street itself, or what's being sold, and then you just work on offer on that basis. Yeah, and then you apply pressure on the vendor, trying to get a good price. I normally do it within 24 hours, and they come back next day. Sorry, deal's over.
Wow.
I want more discount.
Yep.
It's that simple. So if they come back to you, then you save more money. It's that simple, right? So for limited time only for anything, right? So you can always tell the agent that even though you're not, I'm looking at a few properties, there are a few options on the table.
Sure.
If you're not fixed to one, you're making multiple offers, which is, it's even you're not, it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
How are they going to know how many properties you're actually looking at, right? So at the end of the day, if they have you in front of them, their job is to get the deal done as well. So as long as you're realistic with the price, they will work with you because they want to sell the property as badly as you want to buy the property, right? Because they collect their money and commission and they can move on to the next one.
Uh-huh.
They don't want that property in the market to stay on there forever.
And that's why it's great to have a buyer's agent, because they're on your side and they shelter you from those forces that you and those pressures that you might feel from the real estate agent. You have your buyer's agent that shelters you because they're on your side. They go to bat for you.
100%. So that's why you need an expert in the field. And not only that, I'll tell you as it is. Right. So I don't sugarcoat things. There's no advantage for me to sugarcoat things. As much as I get paid, I'll work for you. You pay me to do my job, right? And there's no point in me sugarcoating, just collecting my commission. I'll tell you as it is, right? And my job is to save you money, save you time and hassle and the stress that you go through, and get your weekends back. So you don't have to look for property forever, right? One of the clients I bought last year, I think it's April, just to give an example, without my assistance, she could still be looking at the moment. I bought a property off market within 7 days.
Oh.
Recently, bank revalued her property. It's gone 150,000. So if you're looking at it within about 8 months.
8 months. Wow.
Yeah. And that's a bank val, right? So without if you put on the actual market, it's probably gone up another 50, 100,000 more. So this is why sometimes, you need a buyer's agent to work with on your side to actually save you time, money, hassle. And also the time that you're looking for yourself. It's, you spent months and months, and by the time you realize that the property prices have actually gone up. So you're not saving yourself money, you're actually losing money.
Yep. And you're losing all your valuable time with your family and all those weekends and that relaxation, because you're running
100%.
around and you're competing with all these people and you never end up getting the property you want. Oh, it's a nightmare.
Yep. And one of my clients actually told me, she's like, I just gone straight to a buyer's agent, and the reason's very simple. I see many of my friends going through properties and, they miss out properties, they're going through fights, and one's actually gone through divorce because of a property fell through. And she's like, I don't want any of the stress or hassle. I'll just pay someone to get it done.
Love it.
So she understands it, and that's a reason why. You need a buyer's agent on your side, trying to get things done to make your job as easy as possible, as less stressful as possible, so you can focus on and move on, get on to do whatever you want to do. Yeah. The goal is to buy a property.
Indeed. So, Richard, I want to chat also about auctions. What's the best way to handle yourself in an auction, negotiate, etc.?
My favorite part. That's very interesting. So I guess it comes down to, if you know how to play poker, you play very well. It comes down to how well you bluff, right? So to those poker players out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So when it comes to your auction, there's 2 environments I want to go through separately. So you've got the auction environment in an in-house room auction where they conduct the auction, and there's one where they're done on site. Right? So I'll start with the one on site. So, and before we even start auction, and this applies to any auction environment, there's some due diligence check you need to done beforehand. You need to make sure that you set your price beforehand as well, right? Understand how much you're going to be paying for the property, and if you have a buffer, set that buffer beforehand as well. So you know your limit, you don't go over and overpaying for the property. Talk to your mortgage brokers, make sure on a worst case scenario that, your loan can be approved, the valuation will stack up. Do your due diligence check, get your building tests done properly, just check it all. Review the contract.
Before you walk into the auction.
Yes, 100%. Because once you bought it, you pay that 10% in New South Wales, it's non-refundable, right? So you lose it. And the other thing is you got to make sure that the contract, get your solicitor to read through it. Make sure you have a good solicitor read through the contract, all the terms and conditions. And all the conditions are negotiated prior to auction. It's not negotiated afterwards, because they can come back and say no to you, right? So if you want longer settlement conditions, lesser deposit, 5%, unnegotiable 5% conditions on some auctions, right? So those are the things that are done beforehand. So if you are the winner on the day, they accepted those conditions already.
Right, interesting. So the seller or the agent might have negotiated with 5 or 6 different people in 5 or 6 different ways prior to
100%.
auction,
Yep.
just to get all their ducks in a row to, if someone was going to buy it, that would be what would happen.
Yep. And they let the vendor solicitor do that. So, and they'll clearly say to the auction that if you're the winning bidder, you bought on the auction conditions,
Right.
as stated.
Okay.
So, which means that whatever you agreed up front, or else you're going to start negotiating afterwards.
Yep.
They can come back to you and say no because you already bought the property. It's not like, hey, I've paid my 0.25% cooling off deposit, I can pull out, or let's start negotiating, right? So that's why you got to be very careful auction where you're actually buying and you're 100% committed to the property. If you're not 100% committed to property, don't bother, or you're going to lose your 10%.
So just to clarify, so when you buy auction, your 10% is non-refundable. That's it.
Non-refundable unless there's some, I wouldn't go into those details.
Yeah.
That's a solicitor's job, right? So
Like when you buy out of auction, you might negotiate a cooling off period. Is that how it works?
out of auction, then normally just pay a deposit and then you start negotiating conditions. Some can be done beforehand, but it's only 0.25. So it's a very minor amount that you're losing, a few $1,000s, right? So compared to what's 0.25? So $1 million is 2,500, right? So it's very minor compared to losing 100 grand, 10%, for example.
Absolutely.
Right. So you can afford to lose 2,500 and take a punt and put the property under the cooling off condition. Now, under cooling off, what it means is no one else can purchase that property but you.
Uh-huh.
That's what the 0.25 is, or else there's no point at that 0.25, right? So the property is set aside for you.
I see.
Yes, you do lose that, but at the end of the day, it gives you an opportunity to purchase that price and do all the homeworks and everything, right? So everything's done after. That's the main difference, auction conditions. With the auction itself, when you go into the fine terms, so on the day, what will happen is if you're looking at, I'm talking about an on-site auction for now, right?
Right.
What you have is on an on-site auction on the day, so you have all these bidders, then you've got all these people, just neighbors, sticky beaking, having a look. Then you've got buyer's agent like myself, get to know the market, and you've got the agents, and of course some random people driving by just having a look. So that all creates a crowd, and that's what the agent want on a day.
Yeah.
The bigger the crowd, the better it is. They don't want to go into auction bid with only 2-3 people.
That's right.
Right. So what you got to do on the day is you need to look at who actually has a bidding card and how many bidders there is, right? That's very important. And the other thing is when you're bidding, you need to look at who's actually bidding and their bidding behaviors, because that will determine how you act accordingly with your bidding strategy. Whether you go really hard to put them out, and this is where the poker game comes in, right? You bluff your way through. You might not have money and you just keep on going, hitting it hard. And they think that this guy's got plenty of money. He's a heavy bidder. He's going 30, 40, 50K at a time. Or you could bid very little, right?
Yeah.
So, or you can come out really at the end and go hard. So there's different ways you can do things. It just depending on how many bidder there is. Sometimes an early bidder never wins because they're looking for a bargain. Right. I normally bid when the properties, they say on the market or just before that, but sometimes I even lowball. Right. So, and you can always challenge the auctioneer as well on the day as well. They say they always try to gather momentum. Auction is all about momentum. So you're trying to throw that momentum off, and that's your biggest win. So if there's no bidders or they're trying to gather momentum, they're talking about how beautiful this property is and they do their beautiful property chat, let them do that. And then you just, all they're trying to do is trying to gather the momentum back, right? And then an auction kicks off again. So you can challenge them if they want $10,000, give them a throw $1,000 in. It's actually doing you a favor because you're not going 10, 10, 10 at a time and increasing prices. Yep. If they accept it, they accept it. If they don't, try another number until they 2-3 times they say, no, that's a minimum. Okay, I'll give you what you want. Right, just keep on trying that. Trying your luck and just bring the prices down, because once you go higher, you can't let the number come down. Right?
Yeah. So just throw the momentum out of whack a little bit here and there.
Yeah, and just throw low numbers at auctioneers. Don't be afraid to challenge it. But one of the biggest thing is they will play your emotion on the day. So this is what I noticed. All the agents will have few assistant agents on the day, and they will go to the bidders that are hot bidding. Right. What I mean by that is they'll go next to you and they'll say, come on, put another 10,000 in, you win this house. And guess what the other person's saying, agent? Same thing to the other party, right? So all they're doing is just playing with emotion and create that vibe to get the price even higher and higher. So you just got to know where you stand and not influenced by them, and just do your own, play your own game. Stay cool. I know it's hard and it's very stressful, but if you play cool, calm, collected, and just think it through logically,
Yeah.
then you might actually win that property rather than just, bid on it. And I'm sure all the buyers have done it at some stage. You purchased the car or you purchased something. At the time you bought it, so very excited and go, oh, I bought this, I got what I wanted. And then 2 days later, you had the buyer's remorse. You either realize that you overpaid or you got ripped off, or you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have bought this at all. But anyways, I bought it. Let's enjoy and move on. So they move on to the next thing. So property is no different.
Would you say it'd be better for somebody to partake the minimum amount possible until the very end, and then just give in your final offer and you're done?
Look, you can do that. That goes back to what I'm saying. Sometimes the serious bidders don't come out because they typically just observe the market, right? And see what's going on. And that right at the end, they will announce that the property is actually on the market, right? The current term is on the market, which means that the vendor is actually selling. The reserve has met, because it doesn't mean that you're the highest bidder, you're going to get that property, because if the price is too far away, you still won't get it because the property is on the market.
Yep. So as soon as they hit the reserve, it's on the market, and then the auction is actually on.
Yep, and they tell you specifically it's on the market now, because now they're trying to they know that they're selling.
Gotcha.
And they're trying to create competitions, and that's sometimes where you see the serious bidder comes out, right? So this is which goes back to my other part, in-house auctions, right, in the room.
Yep.
And compared to on-site auctions. So on-site auctions, you can tell who's actually bidding and who's not. When you go to one of those in auctioneer house, you don't know who's actually bidding or where they're coming from, because there's a lot of auctions conducted in that room on the same day.
Yes.
And everyone's sitting down, so you don't know who's actually bidding on what house, and they do that on a reason for purpose, right?
So they also
make you
keep
second guess.
They also keep the volume and the audience and the demand there perceived, because you don't know what's going on.
Yep, and it's in a controlled environment that favorite the auctioneer, and they do that for a purpose, right?
Yep.
So it's to their advantage. They can control. I've bid at in-house auctions before, where I had no idea where the buyer is, so I had to open the bid, because I've got no idea who's bidding against me, and I had no bidder. I knew it's in the room somewhere, but then I seen the card and I go, okay, I know who I'm up against.
That's right.
And then I worked out their bidding patterns very quick, what they're doing.
Exactly.
Right. So it was only two of us. Fortunately, we didn't win that house, but I said pull out at the same time as well, because it was just overpriced and it wasn't in line with our bidding strategy at all. And I don't want my customer to overpay for the property.
And here's another question: Do you sometimes go to auctions on behalf of the buyers without them, or always with them?
Yes, you can do it without them, right? Then you just need to be on the phone with them or have clear instructions set up front.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and they do need to sign another form with me, just with all the clear instructions, just to say all parties are covered. It's very easy to do.
Okay.
Right? And I typically just get on the phone with them at the same time. So they're not, sometimes buyers prefer that because it's very stressful being on site. So there are pros and cons on both sides of it, being there and not being there. It's really what they prefer. And this is a discussion I have with them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And of course, and then you remove the emotion as well.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Love it.
Yeah. So the only one that's stressed will be me, right? I gotta be very careful with the numbers. And it goes back to the same thing with the auction. If you're not sure what the price is, right, half the people don't even know, because the auctioneer goes so quick with the numbers, right? And they're not telling you 10,000, 20,000, or they're repeating the whole number, right? They're repeating these ones and two jargon terms, and you've got no idea what. Then, if you're not sure, and if you're bidding by yourself, just ask the agent. Just say stop. Just clarify. Just go, what's the number again? and they'll come and write it down for you, because I've seen auctions where some of them hardly speak English, where the assistant agent's writing the numbers next to them. They go, okay, I'll give you this or that, right? And then the assistant agent raises their hands and goes, yeah, we've got one more bidder, 5, which means that it could be 10, So when they're 5 or 10, the 10 is 10,000.
Yeah.
And $5, which means 5,000, right?
That's
Or
right.
50, which is 50,000, right?
Yeah, yeah,
If you're
yeah.
doing hundreds, you've got to call it $500, right?
That's
So
right.
$500, right? 500. If you just do 50, like what's that? $50? So there's certain ways of, you just got to understand how auction works. Yeah.
It's not,
And this is how, I help people that go through the auction. For me, it's a second nature.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for me to do. Yeah.
well, that's been very, very useful. I really, there's so many subtleties to the whole art
Hmm.
and science of buying real estate and
Yeah.
negotiating and researching and doing your due diligence. I mean, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that, a lot of the time we forget about. So I think it's really important to think about potentially using a buyer's agent that has some experience that can help guide you and save you some money. But I'd love to just give you an opportunity, Richard, to tell us a bit more about how you work and how people can find you, etc.
So my details as you can see, my contact numbers on the Zoom link itself. You can contact me by mobile.
Right.
You can go to my website. There is a booking on there. So there's a calendar. You can book in there with me. So I do offer you a 20-minute consultation. If it needs to be longer, that's fine. We can go through the details. The main things I want to work out is how I can assist you and maybe guide you through it. Like I said, I created this company for everyone to purchase at a fair price and have a fair go at property. A lot of people tend to miss out, and I'm not a believer that. I want to actually genuinely to help people to get the property that you wanted, get you to achieve your goal from A to B, rather than miss out and just saying, oh, this is all too hard, or in 3-6 months time you still haven't found a property and you're back to square one. And that's my job. So I work in a very fast-paced environment. I have processes and procedures in place, and I'm very strict with it. And that's how I deliver a result in a very quick turnaround time. Usually within a month or so, if the briefs are right. But normally within 3 months, I'll definitely be able to find you something. Yeah.
Amazing.
And all the tools and data and resources are available at my hands. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. Just type in Elite Property Consulting. All my contact details there. Feel free to reach out to me. Happy to just give you some free advice. Or if you feel like you're stuck in the Sydney market, don't know what I'm doing, don't know what I'm buying, or anything like that, just reach out to me just for some friendly advice. I'm happy to help you have a chat and just go from there. Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's fantastic, Richard. Assuming these days, would you say that a lot of buyers agents have more and more off the market properties coming to them now than ever before?
Okay. That's one thing. Good question. That's one thing we didn't touch on. So off-market properties, they are always available depending on where you are. So I operate in the eastern suburbs. So there's tons of emails coming to me every day. A lot of them are off-market. So there's some on the market, there's some off-market. The off-market one, however, does not mean it's the cheapest. It just means that you get the first inspection, have a crack at looking at it. And sometimes they say off market, just means that they want to test the market, see where it sits as well.
It could be
for
off
different
market
reasons.
for a short period of time, and then within a few days back, it's on the market already.
Could possibly be. There could be other genuine reasons as well. For privacy reasons, there could be a tenant in there. They don't want to disturb the tenant. Or some people just don't like people going through. I mean, who wants to have, 100 people walk through their home and, go through what they have, know their floor plan layouts and everything, right? It works very well for the burglar. Let's put it that way, right?
That's right.
So, so there are different reasons. Off-market properties are good. I bought quite a few. It just depends on how you get them, under what environment and what price. So they are available. Plenty of them out there, actually. And the agents are happy to work with buyer's agent, get them off-market properties because it makes their job a lot easier. Remember, some of them, they sign a contract and they only say that, look, I don't want to advertise. I'm too tired to advertise. If you find me a buyer, come to me. I'm signing a contract. So the agents actually go, well, where can I go to market this to? Buyer's agent. They've got the call of a buyer in front of them, right? So they send out to 60, 50 buyer's agent or whatever it is and try their luck, start out with. And who knows, I might have the right client that suit that profile that wants to buy that property. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I've really learned is from today as well is that there's no one type of property or one type of scenario that's better than another. It's all just depending on all the factors to that particular situation and the situation of the buyers and the sellers. And
100%.
you can find deals in every style, in every place, in every budget. It's just about how you go about the process.
100%. As long as you really stick with it. So, I mean, what I mean by that is if you're looking at if you've got a 600,000 budget, you can't say I want $1 million house,
Of
right?
course, you gotta be
It's like
realistic.
saying that I can afford a Toyota, but I want a Lamborghini
Yeah.
or Ferrari, right? So
That's-
that's a different scenario. But look,
Of
if
course.
you're being reasonable and work within a scenario, then yeah, you can work with it. And you're right, there's no one size fits all. It does not work. Every scenario is different. The reason I'll say that is pricings. The vendor works differently as well. They want to work on different terms and conditions.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways of purchase a property. It's actually quite fun. It's a
Yeah.
mind game,
Sounds like it is.
mind
It's
game
like,
and poker game.
it's like
Yeah.
a big game of poker and chess put together.
Yep. And my greatest satisfaction is finding you that property and that phone call saying that, yeah, congratulations, we secured a property.
Love it. Fantastic. I love it.
I've dealt with many, many of those to the clients. So
Really appreciate you coming on the show today. It's been amazing. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience has learned a lot as well. I always like to give my guest the last word. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with?
I guess when it comes down to purchasing property, these are my tips to you. Just make sure you do your homework. Don't be afraid to challenge the agent. Keep your emotion in control
Nice.
and have a level head when you're purchasing a property. Be reasonable about it, but at the same time, don't lowball too much as well, because if you're lowballing, then you'll end up not purchasing a property at all, and the price is just going to keep on going up and up. So within a realistic reason, you can always purchase something, but yeah, just use the tactics I told you. Have a go next time you wish to purchase property yourself. And that's not a city market. It applies Australia-wide. The same tactics apply, right? So wherever you're buying, just going through what I have said to you, actually works in your favor.
Love it. Well, Richard, thank you again. Really appreciate your time and your effort and your insights and all your experience.
Yeah.
And everyone out there, I hope you enjoyed that. We'll be back very, very soon for another episode of Playing with Perspective. Bye for now, and we'll see you next time.
Pleasure, Darren.
Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation podcast. If you would like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Feel free to buzz me on 0414 659 800 or email me on darren@suspendedanimation.com.au. I'm always on the lookout for great guests who can share their stories and expertise with my community. Also, if you have been thinking about putting your own podcast together and not sure where to begin, look no further. I run a really simple 3-part podcasting course, one-on-one with me, where I walk you through the entire podcasting journey. You'll end up with a fantastic new podcast to start sharing right away. Feel free to get in touch to discuss further. But for now, though, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.